Summer is heating up, the ballpark is packed, and there really is nothing like a home team advantage. That's why Team Toyota makes an obvious choice for your next vehicle purchase or service. With their MVP pricing guarantee, teammate rewards program, and streamlined customer experience, their award-winning sales and service departments are there for all of your vehicle needs. A home team advantage is nothing without family and community. Their employees are part of the family, part of your town, and we're all part of the team. Visit teamtoyota.net and choose one of their 3 locations in Langhorne, Glen Mills, or Princeton. Hey folks, welcome to the Phillies Talk Podcast presented by Team Toyota. I am Corey Seidman here from Citizens Bank Park as the Phils open a 3-game series against the St. Louis Cardinals, a series in which they should be able to take advantage of the Cardinals' pitching weaknesses. The Phillies took care of business earlier in this week, winning their series against the Giants. That was a back-and-forth dramatic series with turns both ways, and the Phillies getting to the Giants. Previously elite closer Camilo Doval, still one of the better ninth-inning guys in all of baseball. Phil's getting to him 2 nights in a row. Unfortunately, unable to pull out one of those games, but they still left that important series with a nice advantage over the Giants. In fact, the Phillies went into the weekend still in that top wild card spot, 2 games ahead of the Cubs and 2.5 games or more ahead of the rest of the pack there. I'm almost looking at what the Phillies' current position is as almost like the equivalent of a division lead, where you have a bunch of teams chasing them. And that top wild card spot obviously is more important than the others because you have home field advantage in the first round. Like, there's a significant difference between having to be the team that travels across the country or midway across the country with 1 day between the end of the regular season and first round of the playoffs, or being the team that hosts that series. So as the Phillies went into the weekend, they were up 2 on the Cubs, 2.5 on the Diamondbacks, and then 3 on the Giants and Reds, and 4.5 on the Marlins. So distance starting to be created. The Phillies feel very comfortable at this point that they're going to be in the playoffs, barring a collapse, barring a disaster, barring a rash of key injuries. But at this point, the goal now is to get that top wildcard spot for the purposes of home field advantage. And this weekend against the Cardinals, the Phillies are facing one of the worst pitching staffs in all of baseball. Miles Mikolas on Friday night, Dakota Hudson on Saturday, and then the rookie Drew Rom, the left-hander, on Sunday. The Cardinals rank 3rd worst in baseball in strikeout rate, in swinging strikes, and in terms of contact allowed. The only team that has a higher opponent's batting average than the Cardinals is the Colorado Rockies, who have the obvious caveat of Coors Field. The Cardinals entered the series with their opponents hitting .270 on the season. Really what has happened, and this isn't the only reason, but it's a major reason, the Cardinals have been as impacted by the elimination of the shift as any team in baseball. They were an organization that prioritized pitch-to-contact guys, weak contact, ground balls, quick outs. They de-emphasized missed bats and strikeouts, and it's caught up to them because of the new rules, because of guys getting older and being less effective, and just because that's not a formula for long-term sustained success in today's day and age. I mean, yeah, you can probably get by with a staff full of ground ballers for a shorter amount of time, but long-term, over 5 seasons, over as long a period as the Cardinals have done it, they've almost been playing with fire, and it was bound to catch up to them eventually, as guys like Mikolas and Adam Wainwright aged past their primes as they have. John Mozeliak, the Cardinals president of baseball operations, admitted after the trade deadline that they have to reprioritize and reestablish how they evaluate pitchers and the guys that they pursue, the free agent pitchers they pursue. One piece of information to file in the back of your mind here is that they could be a prime candidate for Aaron Nola. They need pitching. They need more missed bats. Nola is a guy who misses bats and has swing and miss stuff, despite the fact that's been diminished a bit this season. So just keep the Cardinals in the back of your head as a potential suitor for Aaron Nola this offseason. Phillies have been hitting, though. They've been hitting themselves coming into the series against the Cardinals. 51 runs in their last 7 games. Bryce Harper, his most impactful week by far offensively of the season, from August 16 through 23, or rather from August 18 through 25, Harper hit .462, 5 homers, 9 RBIs, 9 runs in 7 games. He walked 5 times. Really been hitting the ball with authority, and it couldn't come at a better time for the Phillies. You want him heating up. You want him trending up now. It's better that he's doing this now than it would have been if he was doing it in, mid-June, or if he was doing it right when he came back at Dodger Stadium. Like, you want Bryce Harper, the best version of him, heading into the playoffs. You want the slope going up like that, and that's really what's happening. It's also been the case for Trey Turner, who, while he still is mixing in 0 for 4s and quick at bats that end in strikeouts, he has been having much better at bats in this month of August, hitting the ball more solidly. The power numbers have gone up. He still has a chance, to end up at a respectable place numbers-wise this season, but it's not about numbers for Trey Turner. It's just about how he finishes the season. Like, he's going to be 260 at best, something like that. He's going to be, like a 730 OPS maybe or so at best. But what matters is, how does he perform in that period leading up to the playoffs? How does he perform early in the playoffs? If he makes a difference in the month of October, all of those first 300, 400 at-bats he had as a Philly are going to go by the wayside. I think that's what more people are going to remember. Getting back to Harper real quick, by the way, Harper, if you remember, 2 weeks ago, he came out of a game against the Nationals midway through with mid-back spasms. He sat the next day, and he hasn't been playing first base much ever since. This back injury has lingered for him. In fact, Harper has been a designated hitter in 8 of the last 11 games. Rob Thompson did say on Friday, though, that Harper could be back at first base as early as Saturday. The Phillies just wanted to give it one more day. Harper wanted to give it one more day. Another injury update Friday was that Ranger Suarez threw a bullpen session. Suarez has been out since August 16th with a hamstring strain. The Phillies have described it as mild, but Suarez threw a bullpen session Friday. It sounds like he's going to do pitcher's fielding practice on Saturday, has another bullpen session Sunday or Monday, and then the Phillies will go from there. Suarez is first eligible to return from the IL on September 1st, but it doesn't sound like he could be back right away. But it also doesn't sound like it's something that's going to linger, deep into the month of September or anything. The Phillies should still have Suarez back for multiple cycles through the rotation before it comes time for the playoffs. But again, this Suarez injury, it just again highlights the importance and the effectiveness of Christopher Sanchez, who really has been maybe the most surprising element of the Phillies' entire season. I mean, this is a team that went the first 2.5 months of the year with no answer whatsoever in the 5th spot in their rotation. After they had to remove Matt Strahm because of an innings count worry, there was no answer in that 5th spot. And the last 2.5 months, the Phillies have had the best 5th starter in all of baseball. That's not hyperbole. Look at the numbers. 11 starts since Sanchez was recalled from AAA. Over that 11-start span, he has the 8th lowest ERA in the National League at 3.15. He has the 2nd lowest WHIP in all of baseball at 0.98. He has the 6th lowest walk rate in all of baseball at 4.2%. These are all numbers entering Friday's start against the Cardinals. 4.2% walk rate. That means that Sanchez has walked one of every 25 batters he's faced since coming back up. And this is a guy whose minor league career was slowed by the fact that he couldn't throw enough strikes. He walked 99 batters in 180 innings in his AAA career. Control is what held him back, and yet it's been his biggest strength since being recalled. That's the biggest reason for his success. And I think all of this with Sanchez might stand out a little more if the Phillies had been scoring runs for him. But in those 11 starts, they've scored 3 runs or fewer 7 times. They have scored 13 and 12 runs in his last 2 starts, albeit a lot of those runs after he was removed from the game. But if the Phillies had won all those games, if they were winning a bunch of those games where he was delivering quality starts, I think it would stand out more, not only locally, but maybe nationally. Christopher Sanchez would be getting more respect. But at the very least, he's put himself solidly in the mix for the Phillies rotation in years to come. This rotation is going to return at least 4/5 next season. Aaron Nola is the only guy not under contract. You have Ranger Suarez entering his 2nd arbitration year, Taijuan Walker entering the 2nd year of a 4-year contract, Zach Wheeler still under contract. Christopher Sanchez is going to make less than $1 million because he's so early into his big league service time clock. So it's just Nola in terms of free agents in the rotation. And that's a good spot to be in because that means you don't have to go out and spend a ton of money to fill out a rotation or trade top prospects to fill out a rotation. You can't say yet that Christopher Sanchez is like a definitive answer long term, but you can say that he's put himself in the mix to be at the back of a major league rotation in 2024 because he's been a mid-rotation piece, really, for the bulk of the summer. You don't know where the Phillies would be without him. They probably would have had to be more active at the trade deadline. But you see the value of Sanchez when Ranger Suarez goes on the IL or when Taijuan Walker has to take a week off, a little bit more than a week off because of diminished stuff, or when Michael Lorenzen is able to get himself a week off after throwing 120 plus pitches in a no-hitter. So while it didn't work out at the beginning of the year with Bailey Falter, and while it didn't work out with Andrew Painter this season, who, by the way, is not going to be in the Phillies pitching plans next year either, looking like 2025 at the earliest, having a young, cost-controlled starter like Christopher Sanchez goes a long way. And for a while there, it looked like the Phillies were going to lose that trade with the Tampa Bay Rays. They traded Curtis Mead, a young infielder, for Sanchez, and Mead was tearing up the minors in Tampa Bay's system as Sanchez was kind of not floundering, but just not making a ton of progress. But now, Sanchez has made more of an impact than Mead has in his first stint in the majors, and the Phillies have needed, every bit of it.
Catch all the sports action and more at Rivers Casino Philadelphia. Whether it's the money line or the pass line, there's something for everyone, including a great sports book. Rivers Casino Philadelphia. Philly loves a winner. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
So the Phillies' upcoming schedule, they have the Angels after they finish up with the Cardinals, and the Angels won't have Shohei Ohtani pitching in that series, and they won't have Mike Trout hitting because Ohtani was diagnosed with a partially torn UCL. He might need surgery, so that really throws a wrench into potentially his free agency and his ideas of pitching next season. The Phillies were initially supposed to face him as a pitcher, but they won't. And then Trout, who just came back from a hand injury, is going back on the injured list. So, man, what a disastrous post-trade deadline period it's been for the Los Angeles Angels, who are the next team the Phillies welcome in to Citizens Bank Park to end this big homestand. This has been a month of almost all home games for the Phillies. They had 3 in Miami at the beginning of the month. They had 2 in Toronto. They had 2 in D.C. and 1 in Williamsport, which is almost like in between a home and a road game. The rest of the month, all home. The schedule has been favorable for them, where it's been more treacherous for teams like the Giants and Marlins, who have come back to earth because of it. Really, the Phillies' most difficult weeks the rest of the season are the first week of September, 6-game road trip to Milwaukee and San Diego, Milwaukee leading the NL Central, San Diego desperate to make one last gasp at the third wildcard spot, but man, they buried. And then the Phillies have a 6-game road trip to St. Louis and Atlanta in mid-September, which, depending on things, might not be as problematic as it would have looked at the beginning of the season. Beginning of the season, you're looking at it like, okay, Cardinals and Braves are going to be division winners at the end of September, but the Cardinals are not anywhere close to the playoff mix, and the Braves really have things locked up. So they're probably going to have things locked up by the time the Phillies get to Atlanta, September 18 to 20. So really that month of September for the Phillies, while there are 7 games against the Braves, and there is a series against the Mets at Citi Field where the Phillies traditionally do not play well, they are in a driver's seat in this wild card race. And they're going to go into the month of October, if they do end up getting there, with a lot of confidence because of the run they put together last season, when even though it looked like their playoff run might fall very short, might be very quick, shut down offensively for 8 innings in St. Louis, and they get to Ryan Helsley in game 1, and the rest is history in that playoff run that almost resulted in a championship. And that's going to be a positive experience, a team learning how to win. You think back to like that first playoff run that the 2007 era team made, and how it impacted the rest of their performance in clutch situations all throughout the rest of that period. And you've seen that some even this season with the resiliency the Phillies have shown at times against closers coming back late in games. The late game offense has been very impressive lately. And part of that is that they have so much experience coming back that they never feel like they're out of a game. A lot of teams say that. It's a different story when you can actually say that and feel confident and mean that. So we'll see if the Phillies are able to put some big offense together this weekend against the St. Louis Cardinals pitching staff that does not miss many bats. Ricky Bottalico will be back for the next Phillies Talk podcast, but just want to get this one out here this weekend to kind of give you the lay of the land in Phillies country. And, Bryce Harper, despite this lingering back injury, sure does not seem like he's impacted by it at the plate. The swing is just as violent as ever, and the ball is traveling just as far as ever for the Phillies star player. So thanks a lot for listening to the podcast. Catch you later.